I'm James Blundell, and a very big welcome to part 2 of our Richard Clapton special, Down in the Lucky Country. Hit the red button to subscribe. In part 1, we traced the rise of Richard Clapton as Australian rock's very own bard, and ended up meeting his aged metamorphosis, Ralph, rock and roll sex god and founding member of the party that never ends. In part 2, Richard revisits the origins of Ralph, and then lets rip as only he can as we dissect everything from his bossa nova version of Girls on the Avenue to coming down of music, tyranny of cancel culture, fame and self-entitlement, and the devastating impact of the COVID pandemic on the Australian music industry. Let's go down on the farm with Richard Clapton.
Quite frankly, James, Michael Chugg turned me into an animal in a very short space of time.
You'd be very proud of that.
Yeah. We're doing a stint at the Opera House, and I had been fairly well behaved during the gig. And after the gig, the roadies are packing up, and that's when my drinking started, as the roadies were packing up. And the roadies kept going, "Hey, Ralph," and looking at me, and I'd turn around and go, "What? Who are you talking to?" And I'm going, "You." I go, "Who the hell is Ralph?" And Chuggy was hanging around, and the roadies keep calling me Ralph and giggling. And I went, "All right, who the fuck is Ralph? What is this?" You know? And it's a pretty boring story. Roadies used to watch Ralph the Hairy English Sheepdog, the old cartoon, at 5 on TV, 5 a.m. every morning. Of course,
just as they're getting roadies,
that's roadies dinner time. and so they reckoned I was Ralph because by that stage I was wild man, as I said, thanks to Chugg. I was a wild man. Chuggy latched onto this, and from that night, whenever that was probably late 70s until 2022. Chugg still, I don't know if Chugg knows my real name. I think he only knows me as well.
I actually asked Michael to manage me a decade ago, and he said, "Mate, you're too much hard work." And I took that as a compliment.
Yeah.
You wouldn't still be here and as relevant as you are without being an extreme optimist, as am I. I feel so frustrated for emerging young artists now, because not only were things pretty dire prior to COVID, but it's, again, this is why we're all so lucky to have that. You know, when we're touring regionally, if we wanted to, we could work 7 nights a week.
Yeah.
As you said before, that simply doesn't exist. But I've got not the faintest idea now how a young artist goes from being inspired and wanting to expose that and share it and then find somewhere to play. And then the layer on top of that is that all of a sudden, even if you get all those things in line, you can't play anywhere because people can't gather. So, you know, I'm really interested in your opinion and sort of forecast on what the endless COVID closures, and it's seemingly even worse without an official lockdown now than it was with lockdowns, that where do they go? What do they do? And how do you keep them inspired?
Well, it's pretty dire, I'm sorry to say. As I said earlier, I'm going to attempt 2 gigs in Newcastle this weekend, and we've no idea what to expect. There's been a lot of traffic on my Facebook page about it. I'm saying to my fans, look, I'm really COVID paranoid. I've virtually been, you know, because of my age, I've been holed up for about 2 years. So, you know, I'll try and get home delivery groceries and all that sort of stuff, because I got sick of going out and going to a supermarket or a chemist or something like that, and then getting the dreaded, "Oh, you've been exposed to COVID" thing from Service New South Wales. But look, what I've been saying on my Facebook page to my fans is we're at a critical point where we're going to brave it. And I'm saying to my fans, look, I'm worried about COVID as well, but I've been bunkered down, holed up for 2 years. I can't just keep living, but this is not living, you know. And at my age, life gets pretty short, I'll tell you, you know. So all we can do is just keep moving forwards. And I don't mean in bloody, Scott Morrison terms, not the way he puts it. But we've just got to keep moving forwards, because I constantly remind my fans, as I even had this in my book, because my academic daughter lived and worked in Tokyo for 6-7 years, and I used to go up there every year and visit her. And one of the last record stores in the world, Tower Records in Tokyo, has got this huge sign on the building: no music, no life. And that says it all.
And then, I mean, you'd already done that with Music is Love anyway, because it's so true. We don't do what we do. Yes, of course you do it. It's your job, and nothing better than a hit record that all of a sudden you can afford bills rather than have to worry about how to pay them. But my favourite saying of all that is, imagine your life without a soundtrack, and you imagine life without it. It's just, it has to exist, it has to continue, but in what shape? And if young people can't discover their own music, all the stuff you were saying earlier, just being in that absolute cauldron of creativity in the UK in the 60s, there was no precedent. It was all brand new music. It was such an exciting time, and they're not getting that, and I feel so sorry for them. I actually only just bought Tower Records up yesterday with a couple of my oldest son, who's 20, has his friends here, and we're talking about that. And it goes back to what I told you about the oldest boy discovering your music on his own at 19 years of age. And we had a mutual. Do you remember Neil Bradbury was A&R at EMI for a while? He was Mushroom. You'd have known Mushroom.
I didn't know him that well because I was never on EMI, but I knew him. Yeah.
He and I could have not been more diametrically opposed as people. We wound up very good friends. And he was telling me a story when Tower was big in Times Square in New York. He knew there'd been a quantum shift in a demographic, which is a word I hate. I share a similar thing with Johnny Cash about they'll go that thing. But he was watching two 18, 20-year-old girls flicking through the racks as he used to push them forward. One of them picked up Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles, tapped the cover and said to her friend, "I told you Paul McCartney was in a band before Wings." Neil had just gone, "Yeah, right." There's a whole group of kids out there that don't know who the Beatles were. So, you can, I mean, they're natural evolutions because the music was still going, but I don't know where they go. But you can't allow that to be the perspective that you or I take on that, because you have to keep inspiring young artists to create. And again, I was talking to a mutual friend, Terry MacArthur, very relevant to you. With every young artist I work with, one of the first things I say is, make no mistake, survival is a huge part of the art. You can be fabulous for a couple of years, but as you've had a 50-year career, that's several world wars all put together at once, and
But look, James, I think, look, I once again, I put this in my memoir or autobiography as well. We're living in an age where music has been dumbed down and devalued. And I'm sorry, I'm going to be very brutal here. And there are just way too, well, for the start, there's way too much music. It's just ridiculous. Billions of wannabe artists. What I find distressing, and on behalf of my daughter, the bass playing daughter, I find it distressing that it seems like the majority of these kids, hey, we're talking to James Blundell and
it goes to Jack Russell. The mustering crew's just turned up. Please don't stop. We're down on the farm. It's the real
thing. Down on the farm. Hey, yeah, James. But no, on behalf of my daughter finds it so distressing that, and she's often sending me links regarding some of the burgeoning acts of the day. And it's when these artists are asked, why music and why do they want to get into music? And it's like, it really, reading between the lines, what they're really saying is they just want to get rich and famous as quickly as possible. And they want to choose, instead of the road less traveled, they want an expressway to $1 million.
Straight down the superhighway.
And but see, I have to compare that. And I do have to be the old man and say, back in my day, son. Now, I have so much fondness. I lived in Melbourne for a couple of years in the late 70s, and there was like a little sorry, I'll say that again. I've got a cushion under me and it slipped out. Anyway, as I was saying, I lived in Melbourne in the late 70s for a couple of years. And at that stage, because I just adored the Dingoes, and I'm sure you do. I became friends with the Dingoes because I'll remind you, I'd been away for 6 years, and when I came back, it was like Greg Quill and Country Radio and the Dingoes, Spectrum, Daddy Cool, etc. Now I befriended these guys, and it was like this great little community. We were hard drinking dudes. I think Bill Putt from Spectrum and Chris Stockley from Dingoes, and I think Karen Tollers from Dingoes. They had this big house in Kew in Melbourne, and you'd go there after your weekend gig on Saturday night, and you'd start drinking beer, and you get your Danny O'Keefe and you get your Lonnie Mack, and we would just sit there and gorge. We would drink ourselves stupid, and we could listen to Danny O'Keefe and Lonnie Mack and all those greats until the cows came home. And that created this great cross-pollination of ideas. So in other words, we all influenced each other. So we all had the same love of pretty much the same genre. Or in a lot of cases, almost the same artists, you know. And man, camaraderie, and much deeper than just camaraderie. It was like a big band of brothers, beer swilling brothers, okay. But anyway, look, I really miss that. I just find for the last 20 years or so, I mean, yes, obviously I have my brothers, you know, because I'm still out there with Diesel and Jimmy and Daryl and, you know, all these guys I've grown up with. But with the younger artists, I don't know. I just don't feel any cohesion or any. I'm not feeling any.
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. Even the most cordial dialogue when I'm backstage with a group of younger artists, and they're really courteous to each other. But there's also that just they're in hard competition. There's not just that man with the luckiest people on the planet to do what we love for a living. I've got not a bone to pick with you at all. You mentioned the Dingoes. The reason I'm allowed to love Way Out West as much as anybody who's ever consumed it and enjoys, because I didn't write it, so I'm a third person in the equation, and it's been a wonderful song to be associated with. First time I heard it, I thought that's a great song. There's two people I know, you being one, James Rain being the other. When you have a song, in your case, Girls on the Avenue, and in James's Reckless, at what stage of the game does a piece of music that has become completely embedded in your country's culture become something you go, you know what, I love the song, I'm really happy with it, but I've nearly sung it enough? Is that a tough one? Is that, do you get the stage of going, you know, not that song again?
I am told by you and my mate Graham Thompson, Tomo.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mick Skelton, who we talked about earlier, Mick was not a Dylan fan, and I dragged Mick down to Sydney Entertainment Centre to see Bob Dylan, and Mick really didn't want to be there. Anyway, fourth song in, I just got up out of my seat, and Mick said, "Where are you going?" And I just stormed off to the bar and ordered myself a double vodka shot and a beer. And Mick came out and he said, "What's your problem? You drag me down here and you just storm out." I went, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Bob Dylan was doing a speed metal version of It's All Over Now, Baby Blue.
No. Yeah, that's structurally damaging for you.
But our mate Tomo kindly reminded me that because Tomo played with me for decades. And he claims, I don't know if I believe this, Tomo, at all. He claims that I got to the stage where one night I was so sick of Girls on the Avenue, I turned it into a bossa nova version and started flinging my plectrums out to the audience, then flinging my clothes out to the audience. No, wait, there's a moral to this story. So after being told off by two of my brothers, I assure you, James, I play Girls on the Avenue every night on stage. with as much passion, but really respect for my fans as I can. Because really, you keep saying 50 years. Well, if it wasn't for Girls on the Avenue, I wouldn't be here, and I probably wouldn't have had a music career. So I really had to jolt myself into getting a reality check and going, look, yeah, you wrote the song, and that's you, but it really now belongs to your fans, and you just, I cannot disrespect my fans, but when our mate Terry was setting us up to this Zoom thing, the one request, he asked me if I had any conditions. I said, yeah, you tell James, I really don't want to fucking talk about Girls on the Avenue. The story's been told 100,000 times. It's not about hookers. It's about girls who lived on the Avenue in Rose Bay in Sydney, okay? End of story. I'm sick of it. So I love playing the song, but I'm sick of the story.
Yeah. One moment, you'll enjoy this. I've actually got to chuck my dog's bone out on the lawn because he's now rattling around with the recording. Oh, mate, we're real. This is
yeah, really.
Set bone.
I hope you're going to use all this, James.
Yeah, mate, but we knew it was going to be a good one. Come here, just come here. Come here. Let me sit down. Sit. Having had working dogs all my life, Jack Russell, mad as a cut snake, very good friend. Don't bring it back. Get it out there. Mate, I've been looking forward to talking to you since it came up, and I really, 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 really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy.
Pleasure.
What comes up works really well. And one other question I had, I'm always asked where I find time to write. And I have a feeling I already know the answer. Do you just write continually in the back of your mind all the time? Is there always something going on, a couplet or a rhythm or a phrase that you've heard? Or do you still have to put time aside to sit down and focus on your art? Does that still happen, or do you just part and parcel of breathing in and out?
I'm sorry, but this is not the answer you want to hear. Yeah, I've been a prolific writer ever since, even starting at school. I just love writing poetry, which became lyrics. So for 60 years, I've been writing songs and pretty much just wrote all the time. And I was, one of these people that scribble things down on napkins and pieces of paper. I've got to tell you in all honesty, and yes, it does worry me, COVID has just killed me. I just don't have my mojo at all. I haven't written a song for 3 years. And it's very, it's quite worrying, because writing songs it's kind of my whole essence. I mean, it's my whole raison d'etre, So it's really strange not having, and I've given it a shot. I'm going to get a 6-pack of beer and start drinking and stuff, and it's just not coming. It's worrying me because, like I said, this is the first time in 60 years I've just had this awful drought where just nothing's coming. So yes, let's hope that I don't know if COVID doesn't go away. I'm going to have to. I don't know what I'll do to get my muse back, but yeah, it's a worry.
Not altogether up to you, mate. I can guarantee it'll come crashing in when you're least expecting it, because that's what happens at my end.
Yeah,
all of a sudden you just go like, oh, God, this is not going to go away until I write it again. But it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. I just, unashamed as you always known. I've always known the breadth and depth of your intellect, and it's just been an absolute privilege, and I really, really appreciate it very
Thanks
much.
a lot. My first Zoom interview.
Well, you did very well.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, mate. Take it easy.
All right. See you, mate. See you later.
Richard, thanks again. Absolute pleasure. Real privilege. Viewers, I hope you enjoyed both episodes of the Richard Clapton interview, and I'll see you with our next special guest on the next episode of Down on the Farm. Thank you to our sponsors, Aussie Legend Temp, Stylish Outback Clothing, and the Granite Belt Brewery. And you can join us on the Punctured Media YouTube channel. Click the red button to subscribe. It's James Blundell signing off from Down on the Farm. Learned about loving in a country girl's arms and shed my